Good evening and welcome to the Board of Canvass meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. We'll begin with an opening ceremony and a pledge of allegiance by Vice Chair White.
Please rise if you are able and repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please join with us now in a moment of silence. Thank you. First up, we have the 2021 Municipal General Election, and we have our City Recorder, Tracy Hansen, here to present.
Good evening. Here tonight to present the results of the general election for 2021. State code indicates that the Board of Canvassers consists of the municipal legislative body and the mayor, and they are charged with declaring the candidate with the highest number of votes as elected and certifying the vote totals for each candidate. The city recorder is to prepare a report that includes the total number of votes cast, the name of each candidate who appeared on the ballot, each office that appeared on the ballot, number of votes for each candidate from each precinct, the total number of votes given to each candidate, the number of ballots that were rejected, and a statement certifying that the information contained in the report is accurate. The city recorder and the Board of Canvassers signs the report and then files it for the permanent record. So it's pretty small, I guess, but the final report is up on the board and in your packets. Indicates that there are 33,000 registered voters and that there were 8,817 total votes cast. There were 98 in-person votes. The rest were received by mail or through the drop boxes in the locations throughout the county. For the actual totals, for the at-large seat A, Marcia L. White has been elected. At-large seat B, Bart Blair has been elected. Municipal District Number 1, Angela Traburka has been elected. Municipal District 3, Ken Ritchie has been elected. There were 140 ballots that were rejected, and on the list it says why. There were 65 ballots returned past the deadline, so postmarked after the date of the election. They were returned unsigned. 21 ballots were returned unsigned, or there was 54 where the signatures did not match the voter's record. The county does reach out to each person when there's an issue with the ballot, asks them to rectify whatever the issue is. They can correct the deficiency, and they're given a certain amount of time to do that. They're reached through email, phone, or they may be sent a letter if they haven't provided either of those other items, and they're given an opportunity to fix that. So they did also, additionally this year, voters were presented with an opportunity to opt in to receive a text or an email or a voice message to let them know when the ballot was mailed, when it was received by the county, and if there was a challenge or if it was counted. So that's everybody can sign up for that. It's on the Weber County Elections website right at the very top. You can click there and register to do that if you'd like. So with that, I would recommend the certification of the report, and I can answer any questions if you have any.
Chair Blair?
Yes.
Tracy, I also signed up for that notification. That was really nice. I'm wondering on these ballots that were rejected, the first two are pretty self-explanatory. The third, do the election officials at the county make any, do they assume that those were cast, was there nefarious motives, or do they, is there a lot of reasons that could have happened that?
There's many reasons that it could happen. Oftentimes, what I've personally observed, I can't answer for everybody, but what I personally observed is there might be two people in the household, and their envelopes and
That's
ballots
what-
get mixed up
yeah,
back and
okay.
forth if the signatures don't match. Again, they'd be given the opportunity to come in, show ID, sign, and make sure it's correct. So they're given an opportunity to fix that. Sometimes there's been children, young adults out of the area, and their parents try to vote for them. So the signatures
Oh,
don't
yeah,
match.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're
That,
saying. Yeah.
that type of thing. But again, they're asked to come and resolve it. If they can't resolve it, then it will not count.
Okay, thank you, I
And
appreciate that.
Those signatures are compared by at least 3 people.
Oh, good
so-
news. Okay, thanks.
So I had one other question, Tracy. Of the 140 ballots that were rejected, and it says the reasons why, do we know, how can I say this? Of those, let's say the signatures did not match. There was 54. Do we know a number of do we know how many of those actually came in and fixed it, or is that is 54 the actual number that were not fixed total?
That's the number that were not fixed.
We're not fixed. Okay.
I'd like to go to the Dropbox. There's a deadline when you go by and pick up the ballots from the Dropbox. How many times, what is the last time that you would go by and collect those?
The drop boxes are closed at 8 p.m. on Election Day, same as the polls.
Okay.
We all have different recorders throughout the county, or election workers from the county are assigned to be at the ballot box at 8 o'clock to close it.
Okay.
So
you check the ballot box at 8 o'clock then, is that
yes, I
right?
closed the one here in our parking lot at 8 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
Was anybody running to beat you?
There's been a couple times when
Yeah.
people are hustling in, so they make it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Tracy. Chair, I would make a motion then that we certify the 2021 municipal general election results.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens to certify the 2021 municipal general election results. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Ken Ritchie to being a new council member in District 3. It's not a Ward 3, but it's District 3. So, but Ken, this is a wonderful fraternity. You'll enjoy those who you'll be working with. It's a one-in-a-lifetime experience, and you'll experience that. You'll have some highs and lows, but most of all, important of all, you need to just enjoy it. And the council staff is the best in the state, and they will take care of you. So, again, I welcome you to the council, and congratulations.
You want to make a motion to adjourn too?
And congratulations
Okay.
to those of you who were reelected. Campaigns are challenging and enlightening, and appreciate all of you that have put yourself out there again. So congratulations too. And with that, Chair, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Lopez. This too is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll wait just a second. We're good. And we'll move right into the 6 p.m. Special Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. We have the approval of minutes, the regular meeting of regular meeting of May 22nd, 2021. Board Member Stevens.
Yes, they're correct, Chair.
Thank you.
And I make a motion that we approve the minutes that have been presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Stevens to approve the minutes listed and a second by Board Member Lopez. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next up we have a public hearing. First is the proposed Flagship Community Reinvestment Area, and we have Brandon Cooper from the Community Economic Development Deputy Director here tonight.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm not used to being so early on the agenda, so I appreciate that. I do know that there are, a bunch of good folks here in red sweatshirts ready to engage with you, so I will make my comments brief. My objective tonight is to present to you and obtain approval of the Flagship Project Area Plan and Budget, the approval of the interlocal agreements between the agency, Ogden City, the agency, Weber County, and the agency in the Ogden School District, and also the approval of the participation and incentive agreement with Amer Sports. So essentially, I'll be covering everything under 3A of your agenda. And the purpose for the project area plan and budget in this area is to retain and grow the Amer HQ in Ogden and to essentially facilitate the expansion of their business operations here in Ogden at the BDO through a distribution and warehousing facility. You've heard this information a number of times. In 2018, Amer Sports was faced with a decision as to where to potentially move their headquarters and also to look at expansion options. They were facing heavy competition in terms of options for where that location could be had. They came to us and we negotiated some terms that I'll explain in just a moment. Later in 2021, we came to you and established a survey area, which is pursuant to the Utah Code 17C that allows us to look at a specific given area for potential project area plan. We did have a public hearing on that draft project area plan in October of this year, but due to a change in the base year valuation that we received after we noticed the meeting from the county, we elected to have a second public hearing, which is what we're here doing tonight. Amer Sports has been in the community since about 2017. They are one of the founding members of what we have determined as one of our primary industry clusters. We have 5 primary industry clusters that we work on in our Community and Economic Development Department, and they have had a major impact in our ability to recruit and to attract other brands and other companies that are in that same space. They've had a direct impact in our city and in our county over the number of years that they've been here, and we are using the tool of the redevelopment area or the tax increment finance tool to essentially help facilitate their expansion and growth in the community. So in 2018, as they were faced with those options to leave, they went to the state, as is customary for companies to do, and also to the local government, and they looked at potential incentives or other tax breaks that could help them to facilitate expansion here in the state. The state runs a program similar to local tax increment finance, which is called EDTIF, Economic Development Tax Increment Finance, wherein they give tax credits against corporate taxes. They also have an industrial assistance fund, which is essentially money that the state's reserved to support job retention and job growth. So at that time in 2018, they negotiated those incentives with the state, and those incentives came with a local match. And so they came to us and asked what we can do to help facilitate their goals, which are primarily our goals as well. And we looked at that time, the use of tax increment finance. We approached the board at the time in 2018. We also approached the school district and the county commissioners and essentially provided Amer a letter of support that at the appropriate time we would address this incentive through the means that are provided for us, and that's what has brought us here today. So all in, the total incentives for Amer were about $4 million, and it's interesting to note that this was about half of what other communities have offered them to move out of the state to other states like Texas and Nevada. And so even though they received less in terms of financial assistance from the state of Utah and the city of Ogden and Weber County, they chose to stay and to grow in the distribution and warehouse. And so this is kind of the steps that were taken. I mentioned that those other incentives by the state have already been approved, and we're here tonight to look at the project area plan and budget and the associated interlocal agreements. This is the project area boundary. It's just one parcel with one building. This is the home of the distribution site that they moved into. And in that building, there's about 100 to 155 jobs over the span of the tenancy there, which is about 10 years. It was an empty building at the time. It had been vacated by Wayfair. So that was one of our goals, is to get the building reactivated again and occupied. And they have provided a significant capital expenditure, which is really what tax increment is based on. The investment that the company makes, and then based on the increased valuation of that investment, it's then returned back to them through the form of an incentive, which is essentially the reduction of government taxes. So that is the tool that we are proposing here through the project area plan and budget, and their investment is anticipated to be upwards of $36 million, which would put the total valuation of about $50 million based on its current pre-occupancy valuation. So specific to the actual budget we're proposing, the base year valuation is a little over $22 million. So that's just that building and that parcel that was described in that yellow box a few minutes ago. We anticipate, based on what they would be doing to the building with renovations and the capital expenditures into equipment, that they would increase the valuation of that space of about $36 million. So we would see a new taxable valuation of about $58 million over that 10-year period. And so in 2018, we negotiated with the board at that time and the other taxing entities 100% participation to get us to the ability to provide the incentive that the Amer Sports was looking for. What that does is that it puts a maximum collectible value on the budget of about $2.9 million. And of that, we would be able to provide to Amer $2.5 million over a 10-year period, keeping $242,000 roughly for our housing fund and using about $127,000 for our RD administration costs. So that's the budget and the plan. The interlocal agreements are the tools that we use with the taxing entities to support that budget. And so it's the participation levels that the entities provide that allows us to retain those revenues over that period. And the three interlocals are with Ogden City, the school district, and the county. And you can see there that they have negotiated those maximums, which brings us back to that maximum collectible amount of $2.9 million. And so those numbers present the maximum amount of money that would be transferred from those entities to the redevelopment agency. Again, using 10% for housing and 5% for admin. And so then that is translated into an incentive agreement to the company, in this case Amer. So it would be 10 years, no more than $2.4 million, which is less than what we anticipate would be created by their investment. And it's all post-performance, meaning every year we do an analysis on the taxable valuation of that property and compare it to the base year. And the difference is the increment minus the 15% for housing and admin. And if it stays flat, then it's a percentage base. So they can have upwards of $2.4 million, but if it doesn't increase in the way that we've anticipated in our budget, then they essentially get what the performance justifies. So that is the Flagship project area plan and budget, interlocal agreements, and the Amer participation and incentive agreement. And it's our recommendation that you approve those items as listed in the agenda.
Okay. Any questions for Brandon?
Brandon, just out of curiosity, I've been in Texas, and I know that there's a lot of money in Texas and a lot of building and development. Why would they opt out of Texas and Nevada and stay in Utah? What was their reason for that?
Bite your tongue, Doug.
Well, companies choose locations for lots of reasons. In the case of them choosing to stay in Ogden in the face of maybe a potential larger incentive to leave was, from my understanding, was related a lot to their workforce. They felt like the workforce that they had here was something that they wanted to maintain and keep. They obviously can't take all of those people with them. So I think the idea that they had a loyal workforce that they wanted to maintain and grow allowed them to make that difficult decision.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. This is a public hearing, so we will now take input for anyone that would like to speak on any of these items, the area plan and budget or the interlocal agreements and the incentive agreements. We have one hand raised joining us online. No worries. Okay. Thanks for joining us, Angel Castillo. Go ahead. You are now allowed to comment on this issue.
Thank you. Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden residents. I'm just going to reiterate the comment that I made when this was presented before, is that while we all love and appreciate the work that Amr does in our community, that this particular thing that's happening is because of a mistake and a negotiating tactic, because the CRA had expired, and we are going to be issuing a CRA for one particular piece of property. And I understand why we're doing it, because we don't want to have to pay that directly. But what I asked before, and like what I'd ask again, is that we put into procedure that this can't happen again. If a CRA expires, then it should be set that way, and it's just completely unfair to all the surrounding businesses, and it doesn't follow the guidelines for what establishes a CRA for community reinvestment to vitalize an area that already is vitalized. This is because Amr went to the state and got money from the state, and we were in a position where we had to do that, and I understand that. But I'd like to make sure that we are not in a position like that again. It should be somehow legally qualified that once a CRA is there, that it can't be redone unless it's for the entire area, because it's just completely unfair to the other businesses, and it does not follow the spirit nor the guidelines of what a CRA is supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, seeing no more movement, I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing by Board Member Heyer and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. And with that, I would go ahead and entertain, if there's no further comment or discussion, I would entertain a motion on these items.
Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2021-13.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Heyer by Board Member Lopez and a second by Board Member Heyer to adopt proposed resolution 2021-13. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Chaburka?
Aye.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes. Thank you.
Chair, can I make a comment before we move on?
Yeah, please.
I just just want to say I agree with the comment that was made. This is not a good approach to this. It's not good policy. I think we all recognize it. We were not in a good place or a position. So we did what we needed to do to get it done. I just want to make it clear I don't ever want to have to do that again. I don't want to conflate issues, but when there's a will, there's a way. there was a will to make this happen. And we found a way to make it happen. And we have other issues on our plate where we need to find the will so that we can find a way related to recreation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, can I make a motion on the next item?
Please.
I would make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-16.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Heyer and a second by Board Member Stevens to adopt proposed resolution 2021-16. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Heyer,
Aye, excuse me.
Board Member Lopez,
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski,
Aye.
Board Member Stevens,
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes.
Chair, I make a motion then that we also adopt Resolution 2021-17.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Heyer and a second by Board Member Lopez to adopt proposed resolution 2021-17. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Lopez,
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski,
Aye.
Board Member Stevens,
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka,
Aye.
Board Member Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt proposed resolution 2021-15.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Lopez and a second by Board Member Chaburka to adopt proposed resolution 2021-15. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Nadolski,
Aye.
Board Member Stevens,
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka,
Aye.
Board Member Heyer,
Aye.
Board Member Lopez,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes.
Chair, I'd like to propose that we adopt Resolution 2021-18.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Chaburka and a second by Board Member Lopez to adopt proposed resolution 2021-18. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Stevens,
Aye.
Board Member Chaburka,
Aye.
Board Member Heyer,
Aye.
Board Member Lopez,
Aye.
Board Member Nadolski,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Thank you. Next up, we have public comments. This is your opportunity to address the board or the council. There's not public comment in the next meeting, so this is your opportunity for public comments. So we'd invite anyone who wishes to take advantage of the public comment period.
I see some people in the, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure they understand that we won't do public comment in our next meeting, so.
Yep.
This is the last.
This is it. Yep.
Thank you for your time, Council. I really appreciate it. My name is Daniel Matthews. I'm an Ogden resident at 2540 Jackson Avenue. I'll make this really brief because I know I see a lot of red in here and I don't want to get in the way of that. I need to say personally, Councilmember Lopez, thank you very, very much for bringing up in your work session an opportunity for people to engage with the public on this council as far as the Marshall White Center is concerned. That was a really eye-opening conversation to be able to listen in to hear how is it the sausage gets made, I guess is one of the terms. Councilmember Nadolski, you are my representative, and I just want to say thank you. Your observations of that meeting were not only my observations, but I would like to say, Madam Vice Chair, the observations of 90% of the people who were in that room. Clear communication gets clear expectations, gets successful results. Last meeting was a show of the public and how they felt. And I guarantee you that's not going to be the last time those people are going to let you know how they feel. I was really disappointed, and I don't want to make this personal, but I have to. And I'll tell you why I'm going to make it personal. My neighbor, Marcia, ran against you. This is a neighbor who helps me in my yard, helps me do all sorts of stuff. And he asked me if I had his vote. And it was really, really hard. I had to look him in the face and say, no, I'm going to vote for Marcia Clark because I feel like she's represented me well up to this point. I didn't campaign for him. I didn't ask my friends and family to vote for him. I asked them to vote for you. That would be different after the last two meetings, and we can talk about that anytime you wish. You said there are no buts, and you said that to Councilmember Nadolski as far as you guys stalling out on the Marshall White Center. I'd like to give you a couple buts. The Marshall White Advisory Committee sent you guys their plan, and it was a great plan, but it took you 6 months to reply. Again, they came at you with their perspective, good perspective. They had really flushed out the way the public felt, but it took you 9 months to reply. I moved back to Ogden roughly around 2017, and I was really excited to be able to go to the Marshall White Center pool, but it was closed. It's still closed. There are no plans to open up the Marshall White pool. There are no plans to actually reinvest and redevelop the Marshall White Center. I think what you'll find is there is no representative building in Ogden like the Marshall White Center. And you're going to hear very passionate people speak emotionally. For some reason, I kind of get the concept that that's something we want to deter. So I think we will also shift some of our tactics and speak dollars and cents, because obviously if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. I get that. I understand that. But I think you're going to find a lot of us are paying attention in this city to this one particular issue. A lot of us are going to vote the way this issue goes in the future. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, Alicia Watson, an Ogden resident, small business owner of Good Company Theater on 24th and Wall. I am going to invite you all to an upcoming town hall conversation for the Marshall White Center. It is happening on December 4th. And the format, the date, the time is TBD at this point, but the forum will happen at the Marshall White Center. And we're going to start with an open house that's going to last for an hour. And then we're going to have a 90-minute forum moderated by the Walker Center for Politics and Public Services. And then following, there will be a 1-hour open house. So we will have Council Member Choburka present, being the representative of District 1, of course. Rosemary Lesser will be there. Miss Betty Sawyer will be there. And we will be sending a formal invitation to you all, but I wanted to give you a heads up to please get that on your calendar. We are working on that being both in person and being able to stream that. So I hope to see you all there, and I hope if you can't be there physically that you'll tune in. Thank you for your time.
Alicia, did you give a time for that?
No, the time is still
in flux. Okay.
in flux, yes. But like I said, our open house, 90-minute forum moderated by the Walker Center for Politics and Public Service, and then following an open house for another hour. And that's December 4th at the Marshall White Center.
Will that be Zoom also? Zoom process?
Yes. Yep, we're working on that being live streamed.
Okay.
Alicia, are you still being charged to use the facility?
We are, however, we have those funds covered.
Yeah.
Yep, by the Ogden NAACP.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have some comments online. First up,
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. You have been officially invited to engage with the public, something that all of you at one particular point in time over at least the last 3 years have said that that is something that you want and that you want the public to be engaged. So I find it imperative that all of you show up either in person or via Zoom to share with the community, connect with the community, and hear what they have to say. And I thank Councilman Nadolski and Councilman Lopez deeply and with much appreciation for speaking frank truth. This is exactly where all of the people that I speak to in the community are. They're tired of waiting. There needs to be a decision, and it needs to be a decision that is for the highest good of a community in which an asset is located in that has literally changed people's lives. And I don't want to hear the argument, well, this Lester Park location is only 3 blocks away. Exactly. It's 3 blocks. You can, as Councilman Nadolski pointed out, drive to places, and 3 blocks isn't going to mean much to someone who has ease and access to transportation and has flexibility, but it means everything to people who don't have access to transportation. And it also seems a bit disingenuous to me to, if you're going to be equitable in public investment, to continue to put money into a fantastic reinvestment neighborhood where the library is, where the multi-million-dollar plaza that's opening up, which I love, and that's great. I want to see more art. However, there's no need to sink more money into a community that is already affluent as far as historic Jefferson and that particular area. And why wouldn't you want to invest in a community that is already there, that has plenty of space, that is wanting and has wanted this for a very long time? And then when we look at what a Lester Park location might be, realize that you're going to be cutting down trees that are anywhere from 50 to 70 years old, and you'll be taking away green space from folks who are using that as their playground, as their family gathering area. Nothing has to be destroyed in the Marshall White footprint. And it's only 3 blocks. So I'd like you to remember that. It's only 3 blocks, and it may be only 3 blocks to you, but it is everything to that community and the people who have grown up and want to develop that social infrastructure in that community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Heath Sato. Go ahead, Heath.
Sato, Ogden resident. Hi, everybody. Bravo to Councilmember Nadolski for his important comments in the work session today. And as Councilmember Lopez said after his comments, we've been having conversations for over 6 years about the Marshall White Center. And in my eyes, that means that our own government is either 1, stalling for some unstated reason, or 2, incompetent. I want to be clear that I don't think you are all incompetent. I think something else is at play here, and I don't think all of you are in on it either. It's long past time to do what the community wants. You need to do whatever it takes to end this 6+ years of nothing but talk and start the process of doing, and you need to do it now. It's time. And on another topic real quick, I'd also like to mention that still nobody on the council or in the administration, after so much painful to listen to public comment, none of you have commented meaningfully publicly on the tragedy that we as a city are responsible for at the border of Marriott-Slaterville, a tragedy we created for our own profit as a city. You need to address this and spend at least as much time as you are about to spend electing a mayor for our Christmas village. What is happening there at the BDO is immoral. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Taylor Knuth Bishop. Go ahead, Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Taylor Knuth, resident of Ogden City. Like Alicia, I want to extend a warm invitation to all sitting council members as well as Mayor Mike Caldwell to attend our December 4th public forum community conversation on the important topic of the Marshall White Center. It is a time still to be determined, but I'll follow up this comment with an emailed invitation. We're particularly interested in hearing from council leadership along with Councilmember Choburka as she represents District 1, along with Mayor Caldwell in the participation of the public forum, which will be moderated by the Walker Center of Politics and Public Service from Weber State University. More specifically, I wanted to talk with you all about racism and anti-racism and what that means to me and many people in our community. Dr. Eevee Kendi, a leading scholar on race and racism in the United States, uses the following definition for what is racist versus what is anti-racist. A racist is someone who supports a racist policy or an idea through their actions or inaction for that matter, while an anti-racist is someone who supports an anti-racist policy through their actions and expressing anti-racist ideas. Well, we all have experienced last week in many different ways. I'm sure your experiences sitting behind that diocese is very different than the people in the community who sat for hours as you went about your business. As a queer person of color myself, I've been particularly struck by these conversations and the subsequent conversations had over the last week in regards to the Marshall White Center. As with most cities in the United States, Ogden does in fact have a history of developing, implementing, and even supporting racist policies and ideas. Dr. Jenny Nagy has actually produced some fantastic empirically supported research related to the racist policies and practices of redlining specifically in our community. And as Ron White, the son of Marshall White, brought that rather striking scrapbook to the meeting last Tuesday, I had the opportunity to look through it. And when I tell you that the headlines from the 60s are the exact same headlines I saw unfold over the last week with regards to the Marshall White Center, I couldn't help but have a pit in my stomach about these conversations related to the location of Marshall White Center not being sustainable or whether or not the city should be in public recreation at all. These are racist ideas, these are racist policies, and you all as sitting council members and the mayor of the city have the opportunity to support anti-racist policies and ideas which start in that community and incorporate a full rebuild of that historic landmark in our community. And I invite you all to do that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a Taylor. I don't know if that's a new Taylor or Taylor Knuth again, so we'll go ahead and let Taylor speak.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. How are you guys doing tonight?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. I grew up in Ogden. I'm kind of new to this issue, so if some of my comments are ignorant, forgive me. My understanding is that Marshall White is a community recreation center, mostly for poor people. And as far as the last speaker, there are poor white people as well. So I don't see this as an issue of race. However, I grew up in West Ogden, very poor, and I walked to Bedlomond in high school. So 3 blocks is no excuse. It's a cake. You know, you can walk that easily. 5-10 minutes. It's nothing. Also, I just real quick, since obviously it hasn't been built yet, I was wondering if the city council was considering 2 things. One, if solar power was going to be implemented to help make the project more sustainable in an environmental sense. And 2, if the center could also have a like a gardening facility to help get people back to their roots, pun intended. If you guys want to answer those questions, it's fine. If you just want to think about it, that's also fine. But those are that's the end of my thoughts.
Hey, Taylor?
Yes, sir.
Could you just give your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Taylor Lee, 3470 Adams Avenue.
Great, thank you.
In Ogden.
Okay. Don't see any other hands raised or any further comment. Oh,
Hey,
yes, please.
I was going to say, there's some people that came in right at the end.
Sorry. Yes, please.
My name is Lori Slater Jones, and I live at 113 South, 1200 in Marriott, Slaterville. And I live in the tragedy that the gentleman on the phone mentioned, and it is a tragedy. As an administration, you will live a legacy and leave a legacy behind you. And that legacy is going to be that you built a 45-foot wall, less than 4 car lengths in front of people's homes. Without any notice, there was a plan developed in the 1990s. That plan has been deviated from completely. There's been no notification to these residents, including myself, as to why there are 45-foot walls in front of our homes. Winter is coming. The sunlight is blocked. We have young drivers. The sign has been removed with the arrows at the end of 200 South, making it not known to those children that they need to take an action when they meet that road. If you talk to the parents of young drivers that go along that road, they are disoriented by the buildings. We have folks come to our home on a regular basis who say that they drive down 1200 West now and they are disoriented by the large buildings that are as large as a prison. Folks, 45-foot walls, less than 4 car lengths in front of people's homes. You've taken away the internet. Boyer's answer to that was to slap a tower on top of that 45-foot wall that is 50% less powerful than the internet we have today that's intermittent because your buildings are blocking it. I am a full-time teleworker, and I need a minimum of what I have today to do my job and pay my bills. And I gave all the information to Boyer to provide to you to get us high-speed internet, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done for our neighbor who uses internet for medical service. She is elderly. Nothing has been done for my elderly parents. There is no sunlight coming in their house. Folks, pay attention. This is a tragedy. This is your legacy. Smile all you like, but this is your legacy. You have destroyed our property values. You've destroyed our homes. You've destroyed our views. Drive down that street. You cannot see the mountains. You have blocked the entire mountains to the west of 1200 South. Folks, are you proud of this? Do something about it. Get together, answer our questions, explain what happened. Who is signing off on this? This is terrible planning. You didn't meet with us. You didn't notify us. You didn't consider the value of our homes or the length of time we've been there, or that this is legacy property, that these families have been here for years and years. My home has been there for 21 years, and I'm one of the newest neighbors. This is a legacy neighborhood that you have destroyed with 40-foot walls that look like a prison. So take note, do something about it, and leave yourselves a decent legacy. Have the guts to do something about and fix what you have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to comments from the executive director.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Thank you. And comments from board members.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. Daniel, I hope you reach out to me. Do you have my phone number? Maybe I can try to clarify what I was. I don't think we're as far off as you think. So.
I have a quick question for the administration. I'm just curious, Mr. Johnson, what has been the reaction to everything that's been happening, all the conversation with the Marshall White, as far as just from the administration's point? I'm just curious if it's been a week since we had the other meeting and there were all those comments, and there seems to be this pattern of comments from the community about believe that this is being greatly mishandled. So I'm just curious, what would be your response to that?
I don't know that I always appreciate the burden or the blame that it's laid at our feet. I don't know that it's always justified. And I don't know that that's appropriate to debate that with you here. We have been working. We've worked hard on this. We've worked hard over a long period of time. This isn't an easy solution or an easy problem. I believe last week it was made out to be something that was easy to fix. It isn't. To be able to sell to the entire community a $25 to $30 million bond is not an easy thing to do. We've been trying to be careful, but I think some of the comments directed at us have been unfair to our staff. I think we want it as much or more than you do. And I think we've been trying, and I think that's probably all I'll say tonight to answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Just one quick response to your comment about the may not be an easy sell, the bond. I heard that in the last meeting as well. And what goes through my mind when I hear that is that a bond, the way I understand it, is a vote by the community. And the community decides whether they want to pass the bond, whether they are willing to pay for these funds that we're asking them to pay for. So I don't understand why we need to make it an easy or a hard sale. I don't understand that. Like you said, I don't mean to debate that with you here tonight, but I legitimately don't understand why that is an issue. If our responsibility might simply be, let's put out the bond and let's let the community decide. It may fail. It may very well just fail and not pass. And, you know, that's what happens with bonds. So that was just going through my mind. And thank you. I appreciate your comments, Mr. Johnson.
Chair? I'll just say, I want to, in fairness to staff, in response to your response, I have not heard one person criticize city staff. Ed and Jay have been unbelievable at doing everything they possibly can. The feedback I have received about them has been universally positive and praised. I think the criticism that I'm hearing is of us, me included. The failures have not occurred with them. They've included with us, me included. Accountability matters. Fair or unfair, we are accountable. And it's not an easy solution, but it has not been an easy 6 years either. We've had time. So yeah, it's not easy or quick, but we have had time. And I just want to make it really clear that we have salt of the earth staff leading the charge for us with the committee's help, and those people deserve the support that they deserve to hear the praise that I have heard about them. So, thanks.
Chair, can I say,
Yes, please.
say a thing or two? I have driven down 1200 West, and those buildings are big. I have a good friend that is your mayor, and I've spoken with him about it. And I said on the night that you first came that we should do certainly what we can do. And I'm not sure what all that is yet. Certainly some of the things that kind of come right to mind, and I believe they are in process. is to make sure that the landscaping softens that as best as possible, and that high-speed internet is delivered to that area by a cable provider or whoever else that can do that that doesn't require line of sight. And I think that there was some discussions. I didn't have them personally, but with the management at Boyer, that they were addressing those things. I will look into it again to see where they're at with that. I don't know what else to say. That's what I think we should do. We should do what we can. That's what I think we should do. So, I did have a little chuckle, but it was not at you. It was there was a text message that came through that was a little funny. So it was not directed at your circumstance or at you at all. So I apologize if you thought it was. But anyway, I will continue to follow up.
Chair, that was my comment. I was just going to ask. I didn't know if there's any updates about what's happening with that situation. That's just all I was going to ask because I haven't had a chance to follow up.
I know that what they put together for the Wi-Fi was temporary. They've been working with Marriott Slaterville to try and get high speed. There's nothing in the road. And we don't have control over their roads. So I know Boyer's been working with Marriott Slaterville trying to fix that. Boyer has made offers with the mayor of Marriott Slaterville to involve the street at doing the landscaping, et cetera. There's been claims that we're moving dirt that we shouldn't be moving. That's untrue. When they moved and found something that the Army had left, they called the Army Corps of Engineers. They came out, tested everything, said we were fine. We can continue to process. So, I mean, Boyer's been very, very careful every step of the way to try and make sure we can do what we can to mitigate. I mean, we can't mitigate a 45-foot wall. I mean, that's we're also concerned about the noise. We know the problem is with those buildings is they have to have continuous pours to do those buildings, and they usually are about a 24-hour pour, I believe. And it's just has to be that you can't stop or you can't, the building won't cure like it should. So I know that that's been a problem in the community. We're trying to get through that process as quick as we can so that we're not disturbing the community. I know that Boyer's working very hard on lighting. The mayor of Marriott Slaterville has asked for no lighting on the back side of the buildings. There'll be none. All the lighting will be on the front side of the building. I know Boyer has turned down several clients who they thought would be too noisy. They're working on more warehousing, which is less noisy than manufacturing. And it was originally zoned for manufacturing over in that area. And they came and got that rezoned because they knew that would be a problem. So, I mean, it doesn't answer, I think, what those individuals on that street are going through, but I think Boyer's been making every attempt to try, and they communicate with them. Some of the people they talk to every day, and they're trying to, do what they can. That's what I know in the latest report I have.
Thank you for the update.
Appreciate that, Mark.
Chair?
Yes.
I appreciate that, Mark. Last week, I suggested that maybe the administration would make a report on what the situation was there at Marriott and Slaterville, and I appreciate that, Mark. Thanks for those comments.
Chair, if I may, I have one more comment, question. I'm changing gears real quick. I was wondering about the request I have made about a bill tracker, quote unquote. I was just curious to know if there has been conversations about that and maybe what's the state of that.
Are you talking about initiatives? Yeah, we talked about that. I mean, we have 5 that are pending. There's a couple that are going through planning right now. That's the food trailers. And what's the other one? Formula-based businesses. And sorry, I didn't bring the list, but I can provide you a written update that they're just sort of working and they just take time.
So I wanted to ask about this in the work session, but we ran out of time. My intent all along when I asked about this was to have something that we could probably see on a regular basis in our work session meeting, maybe on a screen, with updates about the development of our initiatives, and then that would give us an opportunity to engage with the administration to find out if there's anything that might be in the way from progress to get some of these things done. So that's what I'm envisioning. And again, whenever it's appropriate to talk about it, that's fine. I'll be happy to have a private meeting if I need to with leadership or with council staff or whoever is necessary. But I'm talking about a more of a system, a more systemic and visual scheduled way to know, because the whole point behind this to me is to make sure that our initiatives don't fall through the cracks. So any comments on that by chance, on what the feeling is for that?
Are you talking to council members?
I'm talking to anybody, council members or staff,
idea.
anybody that would like to do it, because I'm just trying to be very kind and I don't want to sound like I'm upset or anything, because I'm not. But I was very, very disappointed. I mean, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was the food trailer ordinance, and that was the limit that to me that reached a tipping point to say, I'm not going to stop asking and talking about these unless the majority of you believe that this is not important, then I'll have to stop. But if you believe that it's important, then I would like to know what are we going to do to implement a successful and effective system so that there's accountability to the initiatives that we put forward.
Councilmember Lopez, I agree with your concept. I think that I know for myself that when I've had ideas of things and I'll bring them up, and kind of I guess I think they're going to take their own way, and they'll start doing something, but they don't. And so what you're asking for seems reasonable, that things stay in our sight line until they're either exhausted or until they're fulfilled. One of the two. So I think that, it might be just a 5-minute work session thing. This is where things are. This is what's next. This is what's happened, or this is how it's developing. Exactly. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable request, and I'm with you.
I'm in support as well. Thanks.
So can I ask clarification? So, board member, I suppose, Hire, you mentioned that you make a comment and then you want it you don't know where it goes and you want it followed up.
Yeah, I don't point that at anybody but me, because I just, we're busy people. There's a lot of things going on, and I really don't want to point any fingers away from anybody but me. But I do think this would help. That if the initiative form was filled out, and then that was the next step. It came to this tracker that whether it shows up on our agenda or is just an item that you talk about or whatever. I don't mean to point fingers at anybody. Nobody's at fault when I say something and don't follow through.
Yeah, I just would ask, as from a staff perspective, that if it's something important, that you do fill out that initiative form so that we have a clear understanding of what the expectations are. And if we don't, we can ask, but that we know that there's at least more than one council member that's interested in pursuing that. Because as you know, I've explained, it's sometimes hard when we have just a few members of staff. We can't necessarily do everything that every council member asks. We have to know that there's some support for whatever it is that you'd like us to do. So
perfectly reasonable.
And if these warrants, that's why I mentioned these in one of the meetings when I asked about it. If this warrants conversation about what does it mean to have a successful system, a good system that works for everybody, then let's have that conversation. So now maybe I look at leadership and ask if you're okay with having that conversation, since you, I guess, control the agenda, at least for the next few weeks. And, absolutely, I would never want to put an excessive or unreasonable burden on anyone. But this is just too important for me because, again, I've been here about 6 years, and sometimes it feels like it's difficult to get things done. And I understand that everybody's busy and that everybody has their things that are priorities. We have our priorities. Some of us individually, the administration has their priorities. And I just, I want to do everything I can for the council's priorities to succeed if we can. So I'm okay to move on. And I just, please, I don't want these to fall on deaf ears if we can.
I better say that I haven't felt particularly frustrated because I know it's me most of the time. But yeah, I think this would help. I think it would be a helpful thing. I think the point is that we are elected for a short time. Government moves pretty slow anyway. So we ought to kind of take opportunities to, to kind of keep some of these pauses out as best we can. Because, as we've heard tonight, there's too many pauses. So
it's good to have that type of a program, but we also need to visualize the impact and the workload that we put on our staff. I mean, that's if all 7 of us requested an item, that would just be overwhelming to them. But I think it's well to go through and vent those that are have a value. And I think that's where my leadership comes in, is that they talk about these, and then if my proposal is not good enough, then they come and tell me. We just don't think it's proper at this time to bring that up. Maybe we'll keep it on a file and maybe it'll come up again. But we need to be conscious of the workload that we give to our staff.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, Chair.
Yep.
Chair, you ready for a motion?
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn by Board Member Heyer and a second by Board Member Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Chair, while we transition, I think we have an honorary mayor out there that's rethinking this
I would.
after watching that.
Yep.
Also, I forgot my most important comment. I'm sorry. I started filling out my initiative form and got off track. Happy birthday, board member and council member Nadolski.
We're ready to go?
Yep.
Great. Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. First up is a recognition for the Honorary Mayor of Christmas Village. I believe it's Ed Ehrenberger, and we have Councilmember Heyer to read that joint proclamation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a fun thing to do. This is declaring November 27th, 2021 as Ed Ehrenberger Day in Ogden City. Whereas Ed Ehrenberger was born in Traverse City, Michigan, he learned to fish, hunt, and enjoy the outdoors. He has lived in various cities throughout the United States before moving to Ogden in 2008. Ed and his wife, Joni, have been married for 3 years, and between them have 6 children, 8 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild, with more on the way. And whereas while attending the Ohio Institute of Technology for Electronics, Ed started working for the United States Postal, or UPS, I believe it is, United Parcel Service, and he was with UPS for 20 years, 18 of which he spent in management, working in operations, package delivery, industrial engineering, and air operations. After his career with UPS, Ed held senior management positions for several 3PL companies, managing large distribution centers in Dallas, Texas. He then moved to Illinois to work for Genco Logistics, now known as FedEx Supply Chain. Throughout his 19 years at Genco FedEx, Ed has managed the operations for multiple large distribution centers across the country, including Hershey's Chocolate Distribution Center in Ogden. And whereas Ed constantly searches for opportunities to serve and help those around him, he has volunteered at the Pioneer Days Special Kids Rodeo, Hill Air Force Base Museum, special children's events, and has served on various boards and committees. Ed currently serves on the Ogden Regional Medical Center Board of Trustees. And whereas Ed has been involved with Christmas Village since 2010, it holds a special place in his heart and brings back many great memories from his youth. One of his fondest memories of Christmas Village is when he first moved to Ogden. He was feeling lonely. The lights and magic of Christmas Village comforted him and made him feel at home. And whereas we are grateful for the opportunity to highlight Ed's legacy and service in Ogden City, he embodies the Ogden spirit, and his influence in our community is invaluable. Now, therefore, Mayor Michael P. Caldwell and the Ogden City Council do hereby proclaim November 27th, 2021 as Ed Ehrenberger Day in Ogden City, and declare him the Honorary Mayor of Christmas Village for 2021. We express our sincere gratitude for his valuable contributions to our community and encourage everyone to join in honoring Ed by visiting and enjoying Ogden's Christmas Village. Ed, we've got this great plaque for you. Maybe if we could get you to start here, we'll start shaking hands with you.
We'll start doing that.
And I'll give you the plaque when you go by.
Right now?
Does that work?
Start here. All the way down.
It does require action.
Oh, I'll do that later. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get that after the photo.
You totally look like a mayor, by the way.
I don't think I need to do that.
We'd love to have a picture if you want to invite the committee.
Does the Christmas Village Committee want to burn up their picture with that?
Come on, I can't be up there by
I wasn't at
ourselves.
no, I was at the Benjamin. That's not the Benjamin. No.
You were at the high school. You were there. Yes. Over.
Squeeze in, squash down.
Make a double row, probably.
Good luck, Brandon.
Yeah. Yeah, you get tired, turn your shoulders in. These ladies are doing a very nice job. Yes. If you've been in choir,
Come on, Craig. Pretend you know this guy. Come on, squeeze in.
Okay, everybody look here. Yes, 1, 2, 3. That should be good. Thank you.
Very good. Ed, we'd like to hear from you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Before we do that, should we?
Chair, before Ed addresses us, I need to, we need to adopt, I want to make a motion that we adopt this proclamation honoring the mayor of Christmas Village and proclaiming Ed Ehrenberger as honorary mayor of Christmas Village for 2021.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt this joint proclamation and a second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Ed, you're in.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this. It's a great opportunity. It's a great cause out there. Come down here and spend a lot of time in Ogden over the last couple of years. What you do here is great. And I talked to a lot of people out in the community. They really enjoy it. They love the lights. They love all the booths down there. And it's a really big event with all the other activity going down with all the lights in action in this area. I'll keep it short. I won't say much else. But we just got done with Halloween. Just so you know, if you don't know, that all the Hershey chocolate from the Rockies west comes out of Ogden. So it's probably new, but out of the BDO up there. So we service 9 states, Pac Rim and Mexico and so on. So make sure you eat a lot of Hershey chocolate, share with your neighbors and all that stuff, and let's have a good time.
Isn't it obvious I've been eating Hershey's chocolate?
And we appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Congratulations.
We should thank him for not reconsidering after that.
I wish my elections were that easy.
Okay,
They will be
next,
from now on.
yeah.
Chair?
Yeah.
We need to thank Jay Lauder and his group for preparing the grounds for Christmas Village. And I want to thank him for personally that. That's why Christmas Village is what it is because of the work that his team does also.
For sure.
You can stand up and take a bow, Jay.
Okay, next up, we have a request to be on the agenda, the Natural Resources and Sustainability Stewardship Committee. And I believe we have Adam Toby, the committee chair, here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just see how this works real quick, if you don't mind. Oh, neat. All right, cool. We're good to go then. I'm the chair of the Natural Resources and Sustainability Stewardship Committee, and I am here to do the Sunset Report for our committee. As you know, we were created in 2019 with a broad purpose, and as we've begun our work, we've looked at the definition of sustainability, which basically is meeting our current community needs without sacrificing the needs of future generations. The way that many experts define sustainability is pictured here, kind of starting, kind of having economy nested inside of society, inside of environment. The idea is that all of our economic activity lies on the foundation of our social systems and the natural resources or our environment. And ultimately, sustainability is about securing the foundations to ensure a community may flourish now and into future generations. This is our purpose as sort of laid out by the ordinance that you guys put together for us, to advise the council and mayor on matters related to citizen education programs relating to sustaining environmental practices and responsible stewardship of the city's natural resources. We continue to come back to these core values over and over again in this ordinance in order to sort of drive our work in the committee. Ogden's natural resources, as we all know, are vast and great, with lots of sunshine, trails, skiing just on the other side of the mountains, water sources, climbing, and air quality. We have just an amazing, vast array of natural resources, which could really be our key to continuing prosperity so long as they are managed well. I love the photo that's on top of the City Council's website of downtown. We have cultural and social resources, and part of the early work of the committee has been to strengthen connections with community partners such as Weber State University and Utah Clean Energy. This was, 2.5 years ago. I'm not in there. I was out of town. But I was trying to see if we could get my face photoshopped in there somewhere, but it didn't work out. We look great, though, even though I'm not in there. We have folks from all over Ogden of all ages, and we started out with, I think now, I can't recall, I think we still have one high school student that we're trying to fill in for a spot here, but a wide range of expertise. And this group has changed greatly over the last couple of years. It's taken, and we've had a significant amount of committee turnover for various issues, personal issues, career changes, and some left because of a general discouragement of the slow-moving political process, which has been a learning curve for a lot of us, just the way that it is. We're learning that. And this past year, the committee is excited to share with you a number of things that we have done. And so let's get to it. Uh-oh. Oh, good. Okay, over the last year, we've continued to support City Council moving forward with HB 411. We've welcomed some new committee members, which has been great. We've presented City Council with the requested air quality and climate recommendations. We've started and completed just recently a strategic planning process for our committee. We've welcomed new support staff, and that's it. Well, I'm going to go through each of those, don't worry. So, we've continued to support the City Council moving forward with involvement in the Community Renewable Energy Act, or CREA, or HB 411. We've continued to receive input from many Ogden residents throughout the last year and are grateful that the City Council has decided to be a part of the decision-making body on behalf of the municipalities for CREA. We hope to continue to be of service to the City Council as they discern next steps for Ogden's involvement in CREA and to work towards educating our community about CREA, particularly members of our community who may not have heard of it. Oh, yeah, I just said all those things. So our next steps are to continue to advise you and to work to educate the public about what CREA is and in what ways it may affect them if we continue to move forward with this.
Chair, may I ask a question? I don't know if this is a good time to ask questions or
Sure,
if we
yeah.
should. Want me to wait till the end?
You can just go
No,
ahead.
I noticed on the notes in the packet there was some feedback about some frustrations around not being included in certain parts of that process of the resident engagement. And I just was wondering if you had anything additional to share about that.
I think that there was a little bit of frustration in regards to the not being made privy to the questionnaire that will be going out to the public that's still in the works right now, and not being involved in sort of what that process would look like and what kind of questions would be asked. And maybe some of that frustration was it's not quite time to have those conversations, and that's fine. We're all learning too.
Right.
I think that's part of that.
Oh, no, yeah, and I just want to make sure, just being involved in that process, I would hate to cause frustration. I'd love to use the expertise of the committee if that's a possibility, but obviously work with staff to think about how that works.
Yeah.
We will have to do quite a bit of education if we continue forward. And so I think we should utilize a committee that we have enacted to do that. So
Yeah, we'd be happy to keep pressing on and figuring out how to do that for sure.
yeah. I don't know what the process is for that, Janine or leadership, to include the committee more in that process. Or when to include them, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're still in the really early phases. We're certainly happy to, I think Jay was planning on running the questions past them for any review before anything got out. We haven't even finalized a system for how that how the survey is going to be conducted. So
Yeah, well, I'm totally interested in including you also. The more the better.
We
The
would
more
love
the
to-
merrier.
Yeah, we'd love to be included. Cool.
Well, would that survey be presented to the council, or is it just administered through the administration? I don't know.
I'll let Janine answer.
we can certainly have you review it before it goes out. There's no reason.
That'd be
It's not going to be a secret.
Okay.
No, that's great. We cool to move on?
You're cool.
All right. So our next listed accomplishment is that we've had some new members come onto the committee. I'm just going to name them as they come down. Amy Urbina, who is with the Sunrise Movement Coordinator, has joined us, and she first meeting was volunteered, or she volunteered and then was elected to serve as the vice chair. So you'll be hearing from her, I guess, in a year. In my position here, Bridget Berkema, who is a high school student at Ben Lomond. Mackenzie Truong, who is a senior corporate sustainability expert at Fresenius Medical Care North America. So we're really grateful to have someone on the committee in the industrial sector, which has been great. Riley Allen, who's a high school student at St. Joseph's, and Jonathan Melton, who is a research scientist at Northrop Grumman. So we're grateful to have them join us and fill in some of those vacancies. Our next steps to fill one more of those vacancies that we have and to engage in the newly reformed subcommittees that I'll kind of talk about in a minute here as we discuss sort of what came from our strategic planning process. Next, the Ogden Energy-Wise Strategic Implementation Plan Assistance. We had members who served in the Residential Energy-Wise Committee and coordinated with Weber State's Empower Northern Utah program, UCARE, and Ogden City to promote energy efficiency and implementation. The goal of this plan is basically a 5% increase in energy efficiency in residential, municipal, and industrial and commercial sectors. Through this partnership, Empower Northern Utah has served over 200 families, mostly located, the vast majority of those are located in Ogden. I don't have the exact numbers, but I could get those for you, to upgrade high efficiency LED lighting and or install smart thermostats. So that was really excellent. And we coordinated with Jay Louder for a letter of support to apply for funding to continue this program in the next year. An Eevee Charging Stations project. We coordinated with students at Weber State to evaluate Eevee charging station options for the city of Ogden. This report is forthcoming in the coming month. I can't remember the exact date, but the students will be reporting on their findings at Weber State. And then I believe that they will be invited back to talk with our committee about those findings, which will, of course, be made known to you as well.
Adam, can I ask you about that?
You can, yeah.
Is this report going to include, well, maybe I'll back up a little bit. It's kind of the chicken and the egg kind of a thing. Are they going to report on whether there's already a greater need for charging stations or whether charging stations are there to create the need or to help the need? I haven't figured that out yet. So
sure. I'm not exactly sure what's in the report. This student group spoke with us and kind of was like, well, what sort of questions should we be asking and looking for answers for? And part of it was that. Part of it was what kind of charging stations. I'm not super up to date on each of the nuances between those, but they're different for different cars, whether they're the newer models or the older ones. So I imagine that will be touched on, but I can't say for sure. I don't know. And I hope that I'm not putting them in
I hope
that
that's probably
position.
the first question that they answer. That's something that I think is really important for we as this body to react to. How does that all come? How does that unfold? So
yeah.
Will they have a report of funding in that report? What it costs to establish this type of a program?
I really cannot tell you. It's been, the students came and they basically said, hey, what kind of questions should we be asking? And then they ran with it from there. I imagine that some of these questions will be answered. If not, then there's certainly questions that our committee can look into and can provide answers for.
Who would build these charging stations, whether it is community driven or business driven, or
yeah, they're all.
Is that part of the program that the report's going to come through?
Like I said, I haven't been a part of the student group, and we'll have to see what the report has. But anything that's kind of outstanding questions, we'd be happy to address as a committee.
Be excited to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, yes, December 2nd. I've got it in my notes. They'll be reporting December 2nd, which is great. And that'll be at Weber State where they report. Next up, we presented City Council with the requested air quality and climate recommendations. Our committee worked to compile a report on current air quality issues affecting Ogden and make recommendations therein. These recommendations can be found on the city's website, and it was linked in these notes here if you want to review that. It's from the Ogden City Council meeting minutes for September 7th, 2021. We made a number of recommendations in this report as a result of our research. We are grateful for the work, particularly of one of our subcommittees, the Air Quality Subcommittee, in researching this data and putting together practical next steps. We've been asked by City Council to continue to make recommendations based on these goals, and we aim to do so as we move into the new year. We understand the Council's response and interest in the report's recommendations, and we will provide additional research and support to pursue options for those items with the Council, which the Council would like to explore and kind of communicate the prioritization of goals and continue to make recommendations concerning those. We're getting there. We started and completed a strategic planning process. Last year about this time, we discussed in our committee starting a strategic planning process that would help us reorient our goals according to the ordinance set forth for our committee. We believe this process would allow us to better streamline our efforts as a committee to make the best possible recommendations to City Council in matters related to sustainability and natural resources. We have just finished this process, and with the addition of new members of the committee, which kind of talked about already, we aim to offer more of our advice to the committee, as a committee, to City Council. Just really grateful for one of our committee members, William Hackett, who led us through sort of an abbreviated strategic planning process that was slightly hampered in the beginning by not having enough members to really do much, and then having new members come on and then wanting to get their input. But this has been helpful recentering work for the committee around this initial ordinance and to help us focus our scope of work. And our next steps are to finalize newly created subcommittees, which we are right in the process of right now. And I believe that at our next meeting, we will kind of put those into an official capacity. But some of those subcommittees are sort of working ahead of being official subcommittees, which is great. And I believe that we have decided on 3, which will be education and outreach, which is a primary focus of the ordinance for our committee. A kind of climate in general. It's kind of going to be a very broad, probably very, a lot of folks from the committee will be on that one. And then one that'll kind of maybe be ad hoc to look into something that we've discussed before, which is a sustainability manager for the city. And I don't have much on that at this point besides what we've already requested and discussed. And we've welcomed new support staff. We've welcomed Megan Hill and Ross Watkins to the committee as support staff and received help from Mara Brown. So we're really grateful for that. And our next steps are to continue to grow the relationships with support staff and coordinate with them to develop better channels for communication with City Council, the Mayor's Office, and other city staff. Future coordination plan and goals. We hope to continue to provide research and recommendations for the City Council upon request, provide education and outreach for staff and residents, focusing on historically underserved communities in particular, particularly when it comes to CREA, but really in regards to all matters concerning natural resources and sustainability stewardship. To explore the job duties and options to fund a sustainability position for Ogden, what we're kind of really trying to think is outside of the box and maybe doing some partnerships with other municipalities about kind of trying to see what that might look like. And like I said, we've created a subcommittee for that purpose. Explore options within the city's control to help reverse and respond to climate change, such as electronic vehicle charging stations and beneficial electrification. Ogden Energy-wise, strategic implementation plan, education, and assistance to implement this plan. CREA, support and education. Water projection, research, ordinance, and conservation strategy development. We actually, before one of our members came on, he drafted an ordinance for water conservation and was like, hey guys, check it out. We could maybe use some of this language. I don't know. We'll see what can happen. So that's coming down the pipeline. No pun intended. and fire projection research and strategy development. And we've already felt a large amount of support from our new support staff member, Ross Watkins, who has acted as a liaison between our committee and City Council. We look forward to continuing to work with him and hope to request more formalized communication from City Council in regards to sustainability matters in order to better understand Ogden City's needs, to receive feedback on direction for our work as a committee, and to know that our service is meaningful and being focused on efforts that matter to the citizens of Ogden City. That's really important to us. We want to exist and we want to matter is kind of the bottom line is. And I think that that's it. Yeah, so thank you for your time, and I don't know if there's any other questions, but I'm happy to answer as much as I can.
I've got one more question.
Please.
Well, I just want to thank you and the committee so much for all of your work. But also I was curious, we had been talking a little bit about a waterwise landscaping program, and I didn't know if we had engaged the sustainability committee for that at all.
I haven't seen it. Be happy to be made privy to that. That'd be great.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That's a good.
I mean, I just remember from when we were in leadership, we had to send a formal request to ask them to work on something. So I don't know if we want to do something like that or.
So how do you select the subcommittee members? Is there a pool of people you select from, or do you say we like to have these and then send them to the administration? How is that done?
Our subcommittees are just created from within the committee itself, basically by people electing to be on different subcommittees based on their interests. It's also, we do have some members from the community who are able to serve on the subcommittees as well. So we've pulled in various experts, particularly with the air climate and the air quality report. I don't remember exactly what the name is, but we pulled in folks from Weber State who were really kind of tuned into that kind of stuff to help with that report and to serve on that subcommittee. So it's largely consists of committee members and some community members as well.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Please.
Adam, I saw on your report that you were looking into fire. Was it fire risk or assessment?
Just sort of, yeah.
What's the nature of what you guys are evaluating? It's just something I have a lot of interest into.
Sure. Yeah. That's very, very young in that stage of we're just beginning conversations about that, just kind of where we're going, what fire risk looks like, what it's kind of been trending towards, and then things that we can do to reduce those risks for Ogden and our surrounding natural resources. I think that's really the thrust of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I personally live in the wildland urban interface, the WUI as it's called.
Yeah.
And I've said it here before, but I'm really worried about fire, not just the fire itself, but the consequences of it and the runoff and erosion that takes place. For
sure.
The lack of a plan for most communities. It's not just us to immediately stabilize post fire. That takes time. That stuff worries me. Have you seen, as you're doing that, the state of Utah has a fire risk portal that there's a ton of data that's poured into a geo-referenced risk assessment for every single location in the state of Utah. So it's a really powerful tool that we now have.
Yeah.
It's new in the last couple of years, but
sounds like it'll be helpful for our committee for sure.
Yeah, we've got a ton of community and resource right in the risk zone.
Yep.
Fire department knows it too. They know really well. So, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So first of all, congratulations on your new baby.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't know when you find the time to do all of this, so thank you, and thank you for your service and doing this. I just want to really thank you too for the information that we get from and helping us any way you can with the CREA stuff that's on top of our mind right now. And then appreciate in your presentation just moving back more to educating the public and doing that. I think part of the what I envisioned is to really help communicate with the public. So I appreciated that part in your presentation. So thank you.
Thank
And
you.
maybe after you're done being chair, you can get more sleep.
Not likely, but.
Very
I have one more, Chair. I too appreciate your report. I'm looking forward to see what materials you have. But last week we were criticized as a council by a community member that said that we were setting you up or our committees up for failure. Is that the feeling that is in your committee? And if so, how could we correct that type of a feeling?
I think that has come up, maybe not in such strong language. And I think it's actually why I know one committee member in particular left because he was like, I could do more in the private sector. I can do, like, the city isn't a great avenue for me right now. And I think kind of, it'll be great to have some support staff who's really liaising for us with you as a city council, but also having direct communication with city council, I think could be really helpful, particularly on when requesting in matters pertaining to whatever is going on that is related to this. For example, just to give you an example, we didn't have a ton of information on, I think they just started doing, there's a company in Salt Lake that just started doing glass recycling, roadside glass recycling, and offering that as a service to Ogden residents. That's like a very minor thing. It's not really of much consequence because it's an opt-in program. But just even things like that, it's like, we had no idea that was even being discussed, and so it just kind of felt like, it's not really a thing of great consequence, but what if there are things of great consequence that maybe aren't coming to our committee? And so I think there's some concern about that. But I think that some of those gaps are already being filled, of those sort of lapses in communication with Ross being on our committee, and then just continuing to communicate with you all directly as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, can I ask another question?
Yes.
I just want to say, if you don't know Doug, Doug's a man of gold. I mean, he's got his heart is gold. And he asked the question because he means it. He doesn't want you to feel that way. And the way you said it in your slide was, we want to exist and we want to matter. I mean, who doesn't, right? And I just want you to know, I don't want you to feel that way either. I know Doug doesn't want you to. I don't think any of us want to. We're struggling through cultural things, and there are real mechanisms and barriers at play. But there are good hearts up here. We can do better. I hope we'll do better. But just, we're people trying really hard. I think we'll try harder. I know we all want to, but man, we don't want you feeling that way.
Yeah.
I've served on committees before and I felt that way. It sucks. And if there's anything Ogden has that no one else has, and we used to have have a lot more of it, is that level of engagement where people, like, you feel like you're a part of something that it's easy to tap into. And as soon as you do, it just feels good, Sure. But it doesn't feel good when you're not feeling momentum, So I would love to help you feel momentum.
I will say, I think after there was a big transition in regards to, because we didn't have a quorum for a number of meetings. We actually had to cancel a couple of meetings in the summer because of that, just because of the system changing for putting new committee members on the committee. And so, I mean, some of these things are already in place, and I do think that there is a real potential for momentum to really start building in a positive direction. I think some of those frustrations were just part of those things that are already being remedied. So I appreciate you saying that, and I'm hopeful as well that we can continue to move forward in a productive and positive means.
I would add to it too that, you'd be hella hard pressed to find anybody who has given more to Ogden than Jay Lauder, right? I mean, the dude has been doing it for decades. And I know the people that work for him, man, they are unbelievable. And they're doing way more than anyone else in the state in those positions, I promise you. We've got a staff that is totally overloaded and overburdened. And so managing a committee of volunteers on top of it all is really, really hard. I've done it, but I don't work as hard as Jay does. And so it was really hard for me. I can't imagine how hard it is for Jay and his team. So I hope your crew will remember that when you are feeling that frustration. Remember who we are, how we feel. We don't want you to feel that way, but remember who we're relying on too and how hard they're working to do the best that they can do. Okay?
Thanks.
I think the reason I asked that question is because all of us on the council wants you to be successful. And if there was anything that we needed to do differently, then we need to look at that and move ahead in that direction. But that's what we received last week, is one citizen says, we've set you up for failure, and we're not setting committees up for failure. We want their reports in, we want their information so that we can make a qualified decision at the end of the day. And that's our main goal and objective that we would have in that capacity. So,
thank you.
I just have a quick comment. I just want to say, whatever happens with the Community Renewable Energy Act and agency, we're going to really need, as many people as possible to help us communicate that information, whether we decide to stay engaged or not, or et cetera. So the more expertise that we can use outside of ourselves, because I certainly don't have that expertise, the more we're going to need. So I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I make one more comment, Chair? Sorry. Yep. They're just honest advice. I mean, you've given us honest advice too, but there was a name on there. I don't know the name, but she was the chair of the Sunrise Movement. Is how you presented it. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I don't know I can't recall exactly what her title was, but yeah, Amy Urbina.
Is that like a subcommittee?
No, that's a nonprofit, like a nationwide nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that helps.
It's like I could be speaking out of turn. You have to look into it.
Okay.
But I believe it's a youth led sort of.
There's so much potential in today's day and age for everything to go straight to hyper politicized, right? Obviously, climate and environmental issues are right there, man. Those things are touch points big for a lot of folks, and I think that we've got enough of that, of that political strife, and it would really do us well. And we need to do better too on our engagement. If this is what we don't want, we don't want you guys to feel like you have to become activists to us, right?
Sure.
But sometimes activists feel like they don't have another choice. We all have our voice, right? But when their voice isn't working, when they're using it the only choice you have is to use your voice differently or loudly, right?
Sure.
And so it's incumbent on us, if we don't want you guys to feel like you have to be activist oriented in order to achieve that momentum, we have to help you find that momentum, or else that is where people go. And so I hope that we're mindful of that. I just wanted to share that with you too, so that this doesn't become a political committee. It becomes it is advisory committee for the issues that we've collectively decided we want that matter, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. If I might jump in on
that.
That has been, I've marinated with that comment also. I'd heard it before last week that you were frustrated, and those who volunteer on these committees get frustrated. And I fully understand, the frustration. And I guess I've come to the conclusion that perhaps you think your job is different than we think your job is. In other words, we just are not on the same page. And that's all. That's as simple as that. Because we just don't talk. And you've discussed that. And as I've been looking through this, the packet for this, there's not any of these things I'm not in support of. So anyway, my hope is, my appeal to my colleagues here is that we do have a very proactive conversation about these rules or these duties and powers that our committees have, so that the expectation is equal to what on both sides. So we do meet in the middle, and it's not something else. Because it doesn't benefit anybody if there's just frustration on both sides. It's not going to help. I would love to go have lunch with you and Jay someday, and so we can talk about maybe what my expectations are. Maybe we want to do that with the rest of these people. You get a very candid input. You can give your feedback to us. I think that's a really good way of doing that, and I'm certainly open to that if you are.
And yeah, absolutely. And that's what we hope for is some more interaction directly, face to face, as the climate allows in regards to COVID, and to just interface more and to understand the needs of the city, and to understand in what ways we can be most beneficial, because we don't want to be working on stuff obviously that we don't need to be working on.
Of course, and that was exactly where I was getting to.
Sure.
You don't want to spend your calories on that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, maybe I should spend more calories on stuff like that, to use that term. But the Hershey guy is really too happy with me. That's all I can say. Anyway, so if we can do that as a council and individually, I'd be a lot happier, and I think you will too.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how you all feel.
I feel good about that.
I don't think anybody is restricted from talking to people.
Well, of course not. But I mean, as a council, we haven't done that. And this may be another thing. Let me bring this up.
I've been doing that.
You said a few times that you were reacting to things that the council wanted, and I'm thinking, I don't know when we said that. And so maybe it was a council member that wanted it, and it was interpreted as the council. Is that possible?
I think they've only responded to things that we've asked them to respond to. And so it would have been whoever was in leadership at the time would have asked them to address something in particular.
Yeah.
We did that.
I'm wondering if that's the best way to do that, though.
Yeah, we did that for HB 411.
Yep.
I did that for the air quality report that they just gave.
Well, anyway, and that's the discussion we ought to have, if that's okay. If a council member can speak for the rest of us in that kind of a way.
Yeah, that's a discussion for us to have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you're...
I think also we need to talk about as a council. It's all right to have dialogue back and forth, but we don't want to have the dialogue go down a certain road where we don't get the right information. That's what I can see. That if we gear that conversation, we're directing, which we should direct you on certain aspects of it, but do we want to direct it so far that we don't get the right information? That's the important thing.
See, Adam, you're watching what we have to work through in order, because we invited
this is our
we
process.
invited like a dog to the dinner table, and we got to feed that dog a bone, or else they bite into something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
These are the things we got to wrestle through, man. If we don't do it, this is what happens. People get frustrated, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Chair, I ready to make a motion if there's enough talking done. So.
Any more?
Okay, then I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-56.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed ordinance 2021-56. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Chair White?
Vice Chair?
I'm sorry, Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye. That passes. Thank you.
Thanks
for being here, and thanks for
Adam,
the report.
if you
Thank
could
you.
send me your contact information, and
Sure.
mine's on the website.
Great.
And let's set something up soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
He'll pay for lunch too.
I will.
I'll hold you to that.
I will.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you want to pick the most expensive restaurant.
Now I got to pick. If I'm paying, I got to pick.
And it will be a clean lunch.
Okay, next up is the approval of minutes. The work session of June 1st, 2021, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair, I've reviewed them, and they are accurate to the best of my recollection.
Thank you. The work session of June 15th, 2021, and the tour of March 30th, 2021, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair, they're correct.
Thank you. And the field trip of September 28th, 2021, Councilmember Nadolski.
They're good. Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the minutes by Councilmember Nadolski and a second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next up, we have reports from the administration, and we have Brandon Cooper here tonight to discuss the proposed Flagship Community Reinvestment Area and the interlocal agreements.
Yes, thank you very much.
See, you're still late.
Yeah, I got both sides of the
There you
night,
go.
so sorry
Keeping
about
up with
that.
the tradition.
Yeah, can't get rid of me that easy.
You're welcome.
My wife thanks you. So tonight we're talking about proposed ordinance 2021-57, which is 5A on the agenda. That's the approval of the proposed Flagship Community Reinvestment Area Project Plan and Budget, which was just previously approved by the Redevelopment Board. And then also 5B, which is the Flagship CRA interlocal agreement between the city and the agency. As you recall, the purpose of this is to facilitate the growth and the expansion of Amer Sports, which has been an anchor company for our outdoor industry cluster. And they have been helpful in helping us grow that since they came here in 2007. We've been at this for a while, and as you look at this timing slide, you'll notice that this is a little bit out of the ordinary from what we typically undertake in the terms of establishing a CRA. These negotiations started in 2018, and so this is a little bit different than what we would typically do. We would typically not make commitments that would precede the decision by the board and by the city. But given the circumstances of this situation, we've chosen to approach it this way. And there's a very specific reason for that. During the time that we were approached by Amer in 2018, the DDO EDA, that's a lot of acronyms, but the Defense Depot Ogden Economic Development Area was at the time in place, and that had a sunset date of 2019. So the ability for the city to provide a local match to the state's incentive was restricted by the fact that that existing RDA was limited, and essentially all the funds were committed to the Boyer Company anyway. So in order for us to provide that incentive and to have a tool, we elected to allow that EDA, that existing project area, to expire. And that actually was the most fair and equitable approach, because what happens when a project area expires is the new valuation of the property within the expired project area gets reset to all the entities' general fund basis, meaning that the payoff, so to speak, that the entities had been waiting for 20 years was able to be realized instead of resetting that with this new parcel and project. And so we felt that although this is a little bit unorthodox, it was the actual, the best approach, the most fair approach to not only our partners, the project, the taxing entities, but also to the process. We approached the council at the time in 2018 to try to get an understanding of how we might provide that support then, knowing that the actual formal action was still at the discretion of the council and the board, but at a later time. So it is a little bit unorthodox, but I assure you that single-purpose project areas are common across the state. Not necessarily common for us. We do larger project areas because we have a much greater need, I believe, than others. But single-purpose project areas that are for the specific benefit of individual companies or buildings or locales are common across the state. And so this is nothing outside of the rules of our RDA process. Our precedent that we've done, other than the gap in the timing and the single purpose, nor is it outside of the realm of RDA law. So I just wanted to cover that a little bit and hopefully help you feel comfortable with the fact that we are dealing with this so late after we had negotiated some of these topics. Again, this is reference to the project area as approved by the RDA board, and it is a single lot with a single building. And that building was occupied and is now a distribution and warehousing center for Amer. And they have began and will continue to make an investment of capital expenditures in building renovations and equipment of up to $36 million is what's projected by then. So the proposed project budget has a base year of a little over $22 million. The project area expenditures that are anticipated by Amer would be a little over $36 million, bringing the new taxable valuation to $58 million and some change. And the term of this CRA is being proposed to be 10 years, and 100% participation is what's being proposed and has been approved by the other entities, the Ogden School District and Weber County. The maximum that would be collectible by the agency from all three entities, including the city, is a little over 2.9 million, which would allow for 2.5 million roughly to be provided as an incentive. And we would, the RDA would retain 242,000 and 127,000 for housing and admin respectively. So the interlocal agreement that is before you would propose that the city engage as the taxing entity with the agency to provide up to $645,133 over that 10-year period. And the housing fund and the RDA admin would actually be subtracted from the overall, but that is a provision of the interlocal agreement. So the city would not be required to provide any more than that $645,133 if approved. Any questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, please apologize to your wife for me.
No apology needed.
Chair, I propose that we adopt ordinance 2021-57.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chair White and a second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed ordinance 2021-57. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. And then, sorry.
Yeah, and then I propose that we adopt resolution 2021-17.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair White and a second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed resolution 2021-17. This too is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. That passes. Next up, we have a communications plan for proposed rezone of 550 East and 900 North. And we have Ross Watkins here to give us that update. And while he's walking, I would just thank him for the work he did on the Sustainability Committee and the work he's done with them too. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. That committee's great, and I'm happy to relay any information to and from them. I've primarily just been working with leadership, so when they say that I've been working with the council, and that sounds like I haven't been working with you, I've been talking to them, so I have been working with the council.
Do you want to go to lunch with us too?
What's that?
Do you want to go to lunch with us too?
Oh yeah, if you
Okay.
invite me.
I think you got it. I think you got it.
So it's standard procedure for us, for staff to provide a communication plan anytime an item is extended. Last week, the 550 East 900 North rezone was extended, and that just you probably don't even need a reminder of what that is, so I'm not going to give you one. it's a rezone from a residential zone to R3CO. And I believe it was Councilmember Heyer that made the motion to extend with direction to staff that there be a conditional overlay. And so we don't have a specific timeline for that because that's a negotiation that takes place between the planning office and Steve Diamond, who's the developer. So that's taking place right now. So my I guess update to you is that we don't have a timeline right now, but we will give you one as soon as we know when the planning office has prepared the conditional overlay ordinance and the development agreement with Steve Diamond. So that's my update to you. Thanks.
I guess the direction that was given in the motion didn't seem too tough. I guess what's the process like?
Yeah. So and Glenn can chime in because he's a little bit more familiar with this than I am. The way it works is. I spoke with Steve the day after, Steve Diamond, the petitioner. Sure. I spoke with him the day after because he was asking if I'm going to draft an ordinance or what happens next. So I explained to him that it's city staff. The attorney's office, they draft the ordinance. They draft the ordinance for the conditional overlay for the rezone, right? And then the planning office, so Greg Montgomery and his staff, they work with the petitioner to work out a development agreement. So the specifics that you outlined in your motion, the number of units, I believe number of bedrooms, maximum height of like 35 feet, additional parking spaces, and whatever the other ones are.
And the materials and...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So they will take those and they'll draft an agreement with the developer. That can take a number of months. It could take, from what I understand, a couple of weeks, depending on how involved the petitioner is in working with the planning office. So is that correct? Okay, good.
Just asking for my own knowledge. Yeah. Does the city staff reach out to him, or is it the developer's responsibility to reach out to the city staff?
It's the developer's responsibility to reach out and make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for next steps, he's then going to do a site plan and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That goes back to the planning commission again and probably gets approved there, though, doesn't it?
I believe so.
We don't see it again after that, do we?
Right. Once you approve the development agreement, then you're done. I mean, if you do the conditional overlay, then the council is done. So any site plan approval, subdivision process, group dwelling process is just with the planning commission or
staff.
staff.
If we're interested in to see how that goes, we better tune into the planning commission.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Does he pay fees for that? Going back to the planners?
Yeah, anything that he would need to have reviewed by the planning commission, like a subdivision plat approval or a group dwelling review, there are fees associated with those. But that's a separate process that he would have to go through. If the council just approved it just with the R3, he would still have to go through that no matter what. Okay.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is comments from the administration.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Thank you. And comments from council members.
Just one. I just want to say something that I have been meaning to say but have neglected all night, that I wanted to tell Chair Blair that when I watched the video, you did something that I really admired when you apologized and you owned mistakes that were made. I just want you to know that you deserve credit for that, and that I want to own my part of it too with you. And I don't blame you. I feel that it's us collectively. We need to work on it. And I don't want you to feel that I've attacked you tonight. And I want you to know that I admire that you did that.
Thank you.
I really do. It's a testament to your character. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's kind of hard to follow, but I was going to say something. I think I brought this up once before, and anyway, it's just something that I've been thinking a lot about because it is my day job to think about inclusion and belonging. And I was thinking about the Christmas village, because I really love that village. I love the ceremony. I love visiting the village. But I've just been thinking about more lately, like things that we can do in our privy as city folks. I was wondering, and like I said, I think I brought this up before, but I've wondered, what the discussion has been in the past around the name of the Christmas village. Some people have gone to, being more inclusive and saying, the Winter Village or Winter Festival or Holiday Village. I know that we talked about how there's more elements to the Christmas Village than just Christmas, but I don't really know where we are with that, and I was just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if it's been a discussion we've had before.
First I've heard it.
Yeah, not that I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it might just be something to think about. A lot of communities are thinking that way, especially when we think about welcoming refugees in our community, or, I have a lot of friends that celebrate Hanukkah, etc. So it might just be one little way that we can be more welcoming in our community.
I like the name Christmas Village. It sets the season at that particular time. So, but I'd like to encourage people to shop in Ogden, take advantage of the shopping here, so we can get our revenue in to operate the city. And also, Ben, happy birthday.
Thank you, bud. Go Wildcats.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We have
Was that one word or just?
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez to adjourn and a second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.